everyone. This is Asha Saxena for the AI Talk Show on LinkedIn Live. I love coming here every week because I get a chance to talk to some senior leaders, learn something myself, and hopefully you get to learn something as well. And we cut through the noise. A lot of talk about data and AI, but really, what is our focus is how do we focus on outcomes? And I think what really matters is that are we spending the money in the right place? Are we getting the outcome? And there's a lot of studies like in mentioned earlier, McKinsey, MIT, where they talk about how 95% of Gen AI pilots show no measurable impact. And I think that's really the concern. And why is there a concern around the pilot not becoming scalable? Why there is an issue of not really making the impact or the focus on the impact from these technology projects? I think it's the question of really understanding what the business needs are, understanding what the leadership really truly wants. And I think the question today is that can we really think about understanding how to communicate the value of technology in a way that we can purely, truly show the results? We're going to, it's really about tackling technology or thinking about leadership as we have these discussions. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about a quick lens on why leadership is so important and how it creates a difference. I generally talk in my talks about the Netflix recommendation engine, which is just a simple product, and I created such a major change for the organization. And I think when you think about Domino's Pizza, same thing. Truly understand using technology, AI, predictive analytics to understand their consumers. And I think that's what we are talking about. Are we using this technology as a superpower to zero in on what the executive voice needs, what the company's vision is? How do we really set crisp vision, aligning cross-functional ownership and building trust that can truly unlock scalable AI responsibly? Moving from pilots, or we call it POCs, to really creating impact on business and P&L outcomes. So let's keep this conversation going. We're going to keep this conversation tight and practical. I'm joined by Cassandra Rodriguez today. She's the SVP, Senior Vice President of Core AI at Publicis Group and former Google leader. I'm so excited, Cassandra, that you're here. You have built scalable platform models, risk control in complex enterprises. I would love to hear a little bit about your background before we jump into this important topic today.
Thank you, Asha. That was an amazing introduction, and you touched upon so many different aspects. The key one, as you think about AI and AI transformation, truly being like change. I'm Cassandra Rodriguez. I start by saying I've embraced change all my life. Lived across 3 different countries, born and brought up in Mumbai, completed my exec education at Stanford Lead, worked 18 years prior to this role at Google, 12 years in selling media, and then the last 6 years selling Gemini and AI infrastructure. Currently the SVP at Publicis Group, and truly like thinking about driving marketing, AI strategy transformation, and driving solution to Fortune 500 companies today. And this is exactly the realm that I focus on as a keynote speaker, as a panel interviewer, as well as consulting different businesses. And I'm supremely happy to be with you in your vicinity, really sharing these visions, because I've seen the impact some of your talks and your leadership and your book itself has had on people and on businesses as well. So thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And I think my mission, and I think all these years I've spent in consulting and services and building solution around data analytics and now AI, one big thing we start missing as engineers is that we get so engraved into building the best technology that we sometimes lose track of the vision for what the goal is. We said get so involved in building this best technology that what the customer wants and what the users want is like, we think I know this better. And I think it's so important that our teams as leaders, we keep our eye on the ball, focus on the goal of what the customer really want. I mean, there's so many examples like, I spoke about Netflix and Domino's, but there's US parcel carrier, which did this whole technology where they're not using AI as just a capability, but they're using it as not as a one-off tool, but they're looking at AI as a re-platforming data pipelines, embedding optimization into dispatch workflows,
Yeah.
thinking about how to train and retrain their drivers and adjust KPIs. I mean, so really looking at organizations who are not looking at AI just as a tool, but really thinking about it as a platform and thinking about how can I showcase the durable ROI to the business operating system and change and create the OKRs and incentive processes, not just looking at the model. So, what I'm really curious is, and you've worked with large organization where there's so many disparate solutions and so many different goals, and I think a lot of times you get so pulled into so many different directions that either as a technology leader or a business leader, you start get more involved in the day-to-day task than thinking about AI as a muscle or a company-wide strategy. How should you think executives should set the tone from the top so that AI is baked into the strategic plan, funding, and performance management versus just making it a living IT experiment, which that's what lands up happening. So what do you suggest that as an executive level framework should be to help ensure vision, the company vision, turns into execution?
That's a great question. I think when we say AI, I feel like, Asha, today in age, everybody wants to get on the bandwagon of AI. Some have figured out the baby steps to get there, and some are still figuring it out. And some are sitting in fear of other folks getting there first, because let's adhere to the fact AI and AI transformation and your strategic vision and all of that costs money and it's supremely expensive. Let's start there, right? I think from an executive standpoint, even when I used to and currently even sell AI, one of the things that I firmly believe that you mentioned about engineers right at the start. AI is not a platform for engineers and technical capability folks just to begin with. Of course, they build the product, you have the brain wealth there.
Right.
However, AI fundamentally needs to really start at an executive or a CEO level. Today, when even I, talk to customers about, marketing transformation with AI, sure, our media conversation was very restricted to, let me talk to the CMO of, of a particular company to drive X amount of results and ROI. However, AI touches, and you have to really think from an AI transformation standpoint, where what is in it for the CEO? Like, how can I get bottom line sales revenue? How can I get my operational efficiency on my 10K? The data officer is concerned about how much data inputs are going in and out. So it's no longer a platform that I could say I could go to one stream of an organization and sell in my core concept. I
Right.
really fundamentally believe, and a true executive can set the tone publicly by just publicly saying that AI is a core pillar of a company, right? And that needs to come from the board of directors. It needs to come from C-level executives, really articulating the company's future and growth into thinking about new expansion of products or a new product line. I could literally cite an example to say a CEO could potentially announce a new initiative
Right.
using AI, right? On personalizing customer experiences, right? On which touches all parts of the organization, and really thinking about customer service in a completely different gamut and different lens. So AI, the signals that AI is not an optional IT project, but a fundamental business transformation has
Yeah.
to be articulated front and center, right? That's the TLDR of it. And I think the second part of your question, Asha, was more about what are some of the frameworks. The AI operating model framework can translate like a vision into like really thinking about what is the AI's function role. Like we as leaders today have to really like think about AI as an excellence center and rather than a decentralized team. Everybody, marketing, HR, operations, everyone is doing AI, but no one is today bringing the all the conversations in one unified customer view or a business challenge together. Like that decentralization to start building a connective tissue across AI through all of the channels of the company really like helps us build that maturity model to say, okay, where is AI not embedded today? What am I doing really well, and which maturity stage is my data, my infrastructure, my experimentation process? This then drives better outcomes. This then drives a company's vision. This then flows into defining what ROI of your big investment really looks like, and then actually brings to fruition a AI transformation process.
You touched upon so many excellent points. I mean, you speak about having the operating model that would work for your organization. And based upon how large your organization is, it could be decentralized or centralized. What have you seen when you're thinking about the operating model? What should leaders, as they're building their competency centers, what should they be focusing on? Is it focusing on having the AI Center of Excellence? I've heard a lot of people talk about now the model having AI incubators within the
Yes.
organization where they can try POCs before they launch it. What have you seen that actually the listeners here can take and try in their organization?
One thing that I've seen while truly selling different like AI as the capability to Fortune 500 companies is we want to put our step forward, but we don't know how to bring all of our different units within the companies, like whether it's HR, marketing, customer service, whether it's finance. How do I first get all of them together to work together, right? Let me
Yeah.
just say, it's not easy. It's not easy to get all of these people with different skill sets really work together and understanding a connective tissue of why we are doing this as at a business level. What I have seen to date is some of the successful companies are really pivoting, like a lot of the tech companies are pivoting to even saying, like, first aligning a strategic vision, and the second step is to really saying, what are we going to do to facilitate that change, right? And so that facilitating that change really comes, could be an AI council, could be some AI champions within your group, right? Like, you need the, along with you as leaders in every single company, it's not going to operate like AI transformation. To be clear, it's not going to operate if we C-level and senior executive says, hallelujah, we here, let's start AI transformation. You fundamentally need to bring your entire company and workforce on the same page as to why we're going to do this and how, which means you need to train them, you need to retrain them, you need to give them the capabilities to actually get their hands dirty with all of these pieces. There always will be areas where some folks get it quicker, some folks don't. The question is, how are you facilitating this access of AI, communicating the strategic roadmap to them, and then saying, you know what, let's get there. I understand, like, as managers and leaders, you get it, great. If you fail, we'll have somebody to help you out to do that. So really creating cohorts of AI champions, like even in for like for example in marketing, if someone has developed a small little agent around saying, I can do sentiment analysis on someone buying insurance, and I know this is a frustrated customer,
Right.
sharing that and saying, you know what, like, do you have any feedback? Let's get four more people to help me out here, right? You
Yeah.
start creating now a neural network within your organization of folks who are not just putting their brains together, but now are getting educated much more faster on what is happening in the industry. And that comes from the baseline education of AI across your entire organization. Now that can look as an AI council, that can look as AI champions within your group, that could be a monthly session of education, that could look like, give me access to the AI and ML models out there. You need to start figuring that faster and quicker, because your workforce is the one that's going to drive results, but your workforce is also the one that's going to drive a lot of the fundamental work that you need to get there.
You know, so well said. I have to say that, when you're working with cross functional teams, you only succeed when you bring the cross-functional value streams, standardizing definition, aligning incentives, creating shared rollout playbooks across,
Mhm.
different silos, so that you can bring them together to be able to scale.
Right.
Scaling is less about model and more about alignment,
It's
aligning
about people.
architecture,
Yeah.
decision rights, shared metrics, change management across functions, that what you just spoke about.
Yeah. And it's all about the people. Like at least like we talk about everything in AI, and AI will take over. Again, hold me to this thought. But today, none of the companies are yet there saying, I have built it, I'm solely going to leave it, and it's going to
Yeah,
go. You
right.
need at least one human intervention. And like it's better for people, that folks that are listening here, is it's better to pick up that skill set and say, I'm going to be that human intervention. So the faster you retrain yourself, you understand what's happening in the space and get well educated about it, the lethal you become in the organization to say, I have a footing, I have a stance, and that's my value that I can bring in the organization.
I yesterday I posted uh, a LinkedIn post, and I was talking about Vinod Khosla, who was a former Sun Microsystems, founder, CEO, and he was talking about, he's predicting that by 2030, uh, we'll have AI doctor, AI tutor, AI
Yeah.
everything. AI will be doing most of the work, and humans will be solving problems or working on things that they want to work on,
Yeah.
which means he was saying that the products would become cheaper and more easily available. And so there'll be a lot more resources for humans. And then they would focus on what they need to really work on. It is kind of scary and it's kind of interesting. And so, what are the opportunities here? As you think about it, nobody's going to escape AI.
Yeah.
If you are in any field, you have to jump in and start really engaging with it, and
Yes.
learning about it. And I one of the retailers I worked with, they rolled out AI assisted merchandising, and what they knew that there would be resistance, but resistance really faded when CFO and CMO co-presented a narrative about combined customer stories, the hard numbers, the guardrails, really talking about human in the loop. I think
Yes.
adoption climbs when you tell the story, when you communicate why, how, what changes for you, just in
Yes.
plain terms. It's so I want to go on a topic of influence. Influence compels action when leaders blend storytelling, evidence, or just clear guardrails, that is
Yeah.
tailored to stakeholder group. So how do executives should craft the AI executive voice? I mean, you have been doing that now, and
Yeah.
in your, I would say, playbook,
Yeah.
how do you use short case narratives, or after metrics or operating guard? How do you talk about it? Share with us a real world pattern that you've seen or you've worked with that has worked for you.
Yeah. That's a great question. In an age and time, like I've seen folks using like the words like AI transformation, data driven models, machine learning, LLM, like like I feel like there are words that have a lot of weightage at this point in time. So be it. I believe in storytelling, as you rightly said, and I
Yeah.
believe in simplicity, right? It's about there is no escape. Like tomorrow, if you go in a boardroom, I'm sure you're not going to talk about which LLM or ML model you're bringing onto your backend. The questions that they're still asking you is how much results are you able to drive, and how much revenue uplift did I get, and what's my profitability, and how much efficiency gain I got. Simple language, right? And really feel like executives could really build in like compelling business cases and data driven use cases, instead of talking about like data driven models and like the words and this heavy wordage, like. And I really think the executive still needs and should bank on storytelling as to how AI, like if I'm talking to a marketing team, like this CMO should still be out there talking about, hey guys, I in real time over the last 6 months, sparing, I don't know, 6 months of work that our data science team has been doing to churn the data, to identify who's the next best customer. We have identified the next opportunity and saved X amount of time. Number, impact, simple. And now with that target, And that new market that I just launched, I had 20% more sales. Now, what you've done by in that statement is you have said where exactly AI has come in, what they have been able to, what the AI has really enabled you to do, over the human's enrichment of data, right? Because you're not just like, it's not coming and keep taking over the entire world for you, but it's made me as a data scientist much 10 times more smarter to say, you know what, I can do 5 times more effective work by having this assistant on my side. I literally think about an assistant on my side, right? And
Yeah.
then I've now brought it full circle to say I drove 20% more revenue through the sales. That's where people can understand with the power of storytelling and with the power of exactly where the AI came in and how it helped them, what results did it drive, because it does two things. It is storytelling, it's given you data driven facts, and then
Right.
I think it's also mitigated some of the fears that employees today have in their organization to say, oh, you now build that AI agent, is my job gone? No, it is an agent for you so that you can do 5 times more effective work, right? Like that's the approach, because you need to, on an AI transformation journey, you need these folks with you on that journey. It's not like you're going to do it all by yourself. So articulating where it can come in, what it has done with data driven facts, I would say is absolutely, the way to go in terms of like really thinking about chatbots. Where can it reduce your customer wait time? Where can it drive more like customer satisfaction? Really thinking about those pieces are very, very critical.
That's really interesting. And you know what? I want to kind of touch a little bit about on adoption.
Yeah,
We can bring the alignment, we can bring, the users together, the silos together, have the right operating model. But oh, do you see the challenge? I mean, in Will, we talk about, or the WLDA, we talk a lot about, um, how do we make sure that the adoption is there? A lot of organizations are now struggling with investing in AI, but they worry about, and a simple example is just a Copilot.
yeah,
A lot of the organizations may go partner with OpenAI, get the Copilot, use or provide these licenses to their employees, but they're not seeing a lot of buy-in.
yeah.
How have you seen the adoption challenge addressed?
That's a very, very good question. Adoption is a huge challenge, if not one of the challenges that
Yeah,
we have. It's a huge challenge. And it is, I think for me, adoption of tools and like how people leverage these different pieces, it becomes different from a workforce lens or whether you're talking from a customer lens. They're two different lenses. Um, from the workforce lens, I would really say it is first educating, like we are starting back over your vision, your managers, your team that's essentially working, identifying the narrative of like really showing what's the ROI, what's the cost savings, and how it can benefit them. I just struggle today, like with folks that I speak, is like they do absolutely do not understand how can AI help them today. Take
yeah,
any role profile within an organization. This AI buzzword is kept more as like, oh, this is a business conversation. My SVP should care about it. My CEO should care about it. No, actually not. It's you and I on the front workforce that needs to care more about it than, just getting a strategic vision, like, you buy in on the top. That's not what's needed. What's needed is really thinking on the floor. What today,
yeah,
as like in my role, if I am sitting down there, doing customer service, what today can I do to actually make my work 10 times more smarter, to
right.
make it 7 times more efficient in nature? And then you need to, if you've not done this already, raise your hand and talk about it, because the more you start leveraging it, the more you articulate it to your seniors, your managers, you are potentially positioning yourself as that so-called, in our operating model, the AI champion that can drive transformation. Bring folks that are similar minded to you, create a cohort, get to market, put a position, create a plan, and present it, right? Because we all like, we just need to be more comfortable in our skins to fail faster. In my career, I like the biggest learning has been, if you need something, first raise your hand and say it. And
Yeah.
second, if you want to achieve something, you're going to look like a bully, you probably might not know anything out there, but say it, correct you, it's fine, but at the end you'll come out much more smarter in any conversation. So you need to trust that a little bit, and it comes more with practice. So I think that's been the fundamental of like how we drive the entire workforce,
Yeah.
to really say there's going to be AI champions to help you, let me give the tools and collaterals to help you, but at the same time incentivizing. Initially, you give me a co-pilot or give me like any AI model out there, as you mentioned, I'm like, why do I need it? Like, really, do I need it? Like, but play around, ask your questions, build. I tell my team, have you built an agent ever?
Right.
Don't go sell agents if you have not built your agent yourself. Don't do that. You
I
don't
also feel,
if you've not done the work yourself. So get, if your company says I want AI transformation and you've not got your hands dirty, you're not equipped today to talk to anybody outside to sell that product.
right.
It's as basic as that.
I feel that we're so fast moving towards where AI is going to be embedded in everything you do. So when you talk about adoption, you
Yeah,
will have no choice but to adopt it because your technology, the tools you're using, your CRM you're using has AI already.
everything.
Your documentation management system is already has AI. So you're gonna have AI embedded in everything you do. So you
Yeah,
will be some, and you might not even know it, you will be using AI no matter which section of the organization you are in.
100%.
I want to move towards something that I'm very passionate about. I started WLDA because I cared about responsible AI. I cared
Yeah,
about ethical, responsible, the bias.
yeah,
And in 2020, this whole algorithmic grading that happened in UK, it triggered a public backlash and policy reversal. And the proof was that when you are thinking about speed without legitimate value, and it can destroy the outcome. We saw that in many examples, like the hiring the HR recruiter, the AI recruiter, which caused problems. So when you think about the contrast with these firms that are implementing model risk management early, the question is that having the right pre-deployment reviews or explainability thresholds or real-time testing
yeah,
to make sure that your incident playbooks or your continuous monitoring is there when you're looking for ethical, your governance is built in, not
yes,
bolted in. It's built in from the very beginning. So responsible AI is not just a compliance threat, but it's really responsible AI is an innovation control system that de-risks scaling and protects brand equity. So
yeah,
when I think about responsible AI, I'm really curious that if you have some practical steps that you think executives should take to champion ethical, high velocity AI decision, councils or tiered governance by risk, some examples where you've seen that it has worked.
yeah. I think that is an excellent question. And I think you touched upon one important piece which resonates with me, Asha, is in the speed and the race to AI transformation. I think a lot of the companies forget that we owe it to the people, and there has to be some sense of responsibility on how AI is really coming to the market. And I strongly believe that executives can champion ethical AI by really establishing like a responsible AI committee, for example, right? Um, Composed of legal, ethics, technical, experts. And this committee's role is really to review every single AI project. I know this is a new thing and a new concept, but it is absolutely crucial for companies to focus on these AI projects that are centered towards like identifying potential biases, fairness, Transparency, issues before anything gets deployed, testing our own framework, right? Another practical step could also think about like a bias and detection mitigation process. As we think about AI development in the life cycle. So every stage, every agent, every step could be reviewed more regularly and audited for unintended biases, right? And that's just an example that I'm giving. But that is a committee, or I would say literally like a small group of people that's really focused on mitigating some of these, because that is what, along with saying, this is my company and I am on the front lines of AI transformation, is to position that to say, I'm not just leading the conversation from AI transformation in my category as a business, but then extending to the fact to say that there is a human in the loop, or there is an agent, there are people that actually review certain things. You also mentioned governance models, right? The decision making framework, like I highly would recommend that for balancing risk and opportunity. So you think about the framework would require any AI to be assessed on two key dimensions. You think about business value, and then you think about ethical risk, mainly. So projects with high value and low ethical risk can be like fast tracked, right?
Mhm.
It is a committee that then also evaluates which ones can go faster to market, to launch, versus which needs some more time, right? For example, the high ethical risk requires more review, more transformation, more approval processes. It requires extensive, like, where are the data sources coming from? Am I taking some data or PI information, or I'm taking, like, where do I really need to stop? Does it need to be prioritized as a data set? Do I really need to build this, right? And that ensures that the company can move quickly on low risk products, because trust me, you put all of that investment out there, you have to drive results as soon as possible.
Yes.
I get it. But it helps you in a prioritization framework and exercising caution and due diligence on more sensitive initiatives, right?
Yeah.
That might require, like, I don't know, might require 6 more months to flush it out as an idea. So that's a few ways I would say, like, every company should really start thinking of, like, our AI transformation is not going anywhere. It's going to be absolutely critical in your business, in your industry. And if you're not on the bandwagon, you better start thinking on how are you going to bring those baby steps quickly into market. There's high investment, which means you
Yes.
need to drive faster results. But the more you say, I have an ethical team that sits with me and prioritizes it, the more credibility your industry and your AI transformation project as a business position, in, I don't know, in New York Times Exchange, has more credibility to say, I'm not only driving transformation, I'm driving it ethically. Talk about value adds and storytelling. That's what it does to you.
I agree. I can continue talking to you for another hour, but we are at the end of the episode. I want to thank you so much, Cassandra, for being here. So many takeaways for me, and I'm sure for the listener. So I really want to thank you for being here and taking time out to share all your experience.
Thank you so much, Asha. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you, and highly recommend your book and all the effort that you're doing in the AI space out here. It was a pleasure being here and sharing some of my thoughts.
Thank you so much. So for me, WLDA has been such a great experience. Wilda was created with the passion to bring senior leaders together to create the impact, fair digital world with parity and equity. And I'm so excited that the senior leaders who are part of Wilda care about being responsible as we build AI and the digital infrastructure. From this episode, I have to say, I learned a lot. I have three takeaways, which I'm walking away with. Hopefully, you all can take these three takeaways and implement in your life. AI is an enterprise capability. Treat it like a muscle. Fund it, train it, and make sure you wire it into the strategy, KPIs, and incentives. And second, scale happens through alignment. We spoke about how cross functional operating mechanism, shared metrics, data contracts, adoption scorecards, not just uh, POCs or making it science projects. And trust accelerates outcome. When we talk about responsible AI, it's just not the buzzword. Your AI executive voice should blend narrative, evidence, guardrails. Responsible AI is how you go fast and stay credible. For those watching, I would say pick one product line or customer journey this quarter. Stand up a cross functional pod, publish one page AI North Star with the value metrics, and define your governance gates before you ship. And then communicate, and make sure you communicate often and clearly. That's your superpower. Cassandra, thank you again. To everyone joining us live, connect with us, with our speaker, or connect with me. Make sure you feel free to send us a note in LinkedIn if you feel like we can help you in any way. If you have any questions, drop your questions in the thread. And for the next episode, continue watching. I'm Asha Saxena. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.